Hey y'all, and welcome to another video in my service dog series. Today's video is focusing on another set of laws that work closely with service animals. Today's is the Air Carrier Access Act, or the ACAA. So the ACAA is governed by the DOT, basically, the Department of Transportation, because it talks all about the rules of flying with a service animal. It used to be that service animals were divided into two different categories. That you had psychiatric service animals, which were for anything in the mental health spectrum, and other service dogs for medical episodes, which a lot of people had issues with because they are still service animals, just serving different functions of a disability. The biggest problem of how it used to be was that psychiatric service animals were treated the same as emotional support animals and were not seen as the hardworking, well-trained dogs that they are. Now that is not the case. Emotional support animals are no longer protected to fly, but psychiatric service animals are. So that was one of the big changes that came with the new ACAA guidelines. The other big change is that it no longer protects miniature horses as service animals, which is a big setback to the service mini community. And a lot of people are trying to fight that as well, because they are also hardworking animals recognized by the ADA. But to focus on service dogs and the aspects of the ACA that talk about that, you'll see me referencing my notes because laws are important. I don't want to get it wrong for y'all. Even though I may know these laws by the back of my hand, I do not want to make a mistake. And if I do, I will correct myself happily, because we need to have the right information out there. So, I digress. Service animals are recognized as medical equipment in the ACAA. They're defined here as: a service animal means a dog, regardless of breed or type, that is individually trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of a qualified individual with a disability, including a physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other mental disability. Animal species other than dogs, emotional support animals, comfort animals, companionship animals, and service animals in training are not considered service animals. So the way that the big overarching things there are that it's saying any disability, which is great. It's saying that any service animal is a service animal, period, point blank, correcting their division of service animals and psychiatric service animals that were previously listed. But it's also excluding service minis, emotional support animals, etc. So, basically, they are allowed to deny a service dog if it's too large or heavy to be accommodated in the cabin, poses a direct threat to health and safety of others, which generally means it's not a service dog, because that's usually barking, growling, snarling, urinating, defecating, etc. Causes a significant disruption in the cabin or the gates, barking a lot, lunging, whatever, not a service animal, or violates health requirements. For example, prohibited from entering foreign countries or U.S. territories because you have to follow the rules of where you're landing. Yes, you still have to follow the rules of where you currently are to get into the airport, but once you're on the plane, you have to follow the rules of where you're going, because they won't let you off the plane if you aren't following those rules. They also may deny transport to a service dog if you haven't filled out the forms. So the forms are part of how they can determine the animal is a service animal. You basically have two forms now. You have this form, which talks about the animal's training, behavior, etc. And then for long flights, over 8 hours, you have this form saying that the animal will not relieve itself in flight or will do so in a manner that, quote, won't pose a health or sanitation issue. So, let's look a little bit at these forms. You do have to fill out these forms beforehand. They have to be in your file, like with your boarding pass and all that. And these forms mean that you will not be able to do a self-check-in or online check-in or anything like that. You have to go up to the desk. The reason for that is you submit these forms, but they aren't completely verified until the gate agent or the ticket counter agent sees your dog and see that it is well-mannered. After they see that, check, you're ready to go. So, some of the things on this form. First off, the big warning at the top saying it's a federal crime to materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements on this form. Basically, it's a big problem if you lie. So it's asking about the handler's name, the user's name if different from the handler, because there are teams where the adult handles the animal for the use of a small child. Like, the small child is the one who needs the service animal, but isn't old enough to handle the animal themselves, so the adult steps in as the handler. That's why there are two different lines for that. As for your phone, your email, the animal's name and description, including weight, and then you talk about their health. Are they vaccinated for rabies? When was their last vaccination? Like, what was the date of that? And the date the tag expires. You also have to say that they don't have fleas, ticks, or a disease that would endanger people or other animals. It doesn't require a veterinary signature, but it does require your vet's name and number. Then we have the training section. They have been trained to do tasks that relate to the disability. It's pretty straightforward. It has the name of animal trainer or training organization. You can put your name if you are owner training your dog. If you trained your dog, you are the animal trainer in this instance. And you just put your phone number again. Has the animal been trained to behave in a public setting? I sure hope so if you're trying to go sit on a plane for hours. I understand that a properly trained dog remains under the control of its handler. I understand that a properly trained dog does not act aggressive by biting, barking, jumping, lunging, or injuring people or other animals. It also does not urinate, defecate on the aircraft or in the gate area. That's basically, we're going to outline the behaviors we're specifically asking about with regards to behaving in a public setting to make sure you are agreeing to these specific behaviors. Because not everyone says well-mannered means the same thing. Well-mannered is open to interpretation. So the DOT is making it very clear what they mean by that. That way there is no wiggle room for you to say you didn't know and for them to say, look, it says it right here that your dog can't do that. That way it's covering everybody, basically. And then you also have to say that you understand that if the animal shows it has not been trained properly to behave in public, the airline may treat the animal as a pet and subject you to fees for the pet fee and requiring the animal to be transported in a pet carrier. If you don't have a carrier with you and your animal is misbehaving, good luck. Might not fly. Anyway, to the best of my knowledge, the animal has not behaved aggressively or caused serious injury to another person or dog. If you cannot check the box above, please explain. So, you should be able to check all those boxes. If it's truly a service dog, there shouldn't be any problem with any of that. Other assurances. You understand that the animal must be harnessed, leashed, or tethered at all times in the airport and aircraft. I understand that if the animal causes damage, the airline may charge me a fee for the cost to repair it, as long as the airline would also charge passengers without disabilities to repair the similar kinds of damage. So what's that saying? That's saying that it's like in the ADA for a hotel, if you were to go somewhere and the animal would urinate and cause damage to the carpet, for instance, would they also charge that fee of a pet? The other issue is they can't charge you just for cleaning up pet hair, because that's just part of your medical equipment. They wouldn't charge that to a person with a wheelchair. That's kind of a gray area. It's kind of tricky. It's all about the wording they use, but that's that. And you also check off that you are signing an official document and your answers are true to the best of your knowledge. So that's really the entire form. The relief form has a lot of the same information, like name, user's name, animal's name, but you also talk about how long your flight is, departure airport, arrival airport, date, and you say whether or not your animal will need to relieve itself, and if they do need to relieve itself in the flight, how they're going to do that in a sanitary manner. The example that they give is dog diapers. That is an option. I have not looked into long flights with my service dog because for me, I don't handle long flights well anymore. So that's not really something I can speak to as to other options, but they seem to think that dog diapers are an appropriate option. Something to consider for you. And then it's got 2 more boxes, just like on the last form, about charging a fee if the animal causes damage, and the signing of an official document. That's pretty much it. They also give you tips on traveling with a service animal, saying that if your animal needs to relieve itself, they have relief areas at most airports. They must be required to accompany you in the space under the seat in front of you. They are small enough they can sit in your lap. The airline is not required to upgrade you to a different class of service, so they can change your seats if you need it, but they're not required to, say, if you're in coach, put you in first class. And saying that your animal must behave properly. It's really straightforward. It also talks about if you're traveling outside the U.S. with a service animal, they are subject to the requirements of that country. So you always want to double check with your destination that you are meeting everything that they have. There are some states even that have really strict rules. Like if you're flying to Hawaii, they have very strict rules on vaccination records because they haven't had rabies there. Things like that. There are other countries that are in the same boat. So you really want to make sure that you are following all the laws of where you're going. If you have any questions, you can always call your arrival airport. You could probably also call the embassy if you're having trouble finding documentation that's translated into English for wherever you're going. But the long and short of it is, if you don't know, ask. And also, fill out your forms. It's pretty straightforward. I hope this helps if you're planning to fly soon and travel. I am jealous. But also, share your experience below. If you have any questions, like always, comments are available for you. Feel free to check out some of my other Service Dog series videos, and we've got one more in this series coming up. Thanks for watching.